Alright folks, uh, this is my little tutorial on 5-string open G tuning, the classic signature tuning of Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones that has contributed to the sound of rock and roll as we know it now more than any other person really. There's no rhythm guitarist who's contributed more to rock and roll music and many other forms of music too, popular music, than Keith Richards. And what he did was uh, in the late 60s, when he's making Beggar's Banquet, he started getting into these open D and open E tunings, blues tunings. Then he went from there in 69 with Sticky Fingers, or actually with Let It Bleed in 68, the first record that Mick Taylor was playing on. He started mucking around with an open G tuning. And he kept finding that the root note was too low, and it makes sense. So that's where the classic signature Keith Richards technique and tuning was born, was when he actually pulled the low E string off the guitar. So now we have a 5-string tuning. So now classic open G would be you tune the low E down to a D, the A string down to a G, and the high E down to a D also. So you have D, G, D, G, B, D. But here we want the root note, the lowest note in the chord, to be the name note. So we pull off the low E, and now we have the five strings left. And we tune the A string, the 5th string here, and the high E down a full tone, down 2 steps, 2 semitones or a full tone, from a G, first from an A here down to a G, and from the high E down to a D. And what you've done here is created what is an A form bar chord open. So, for example, if you wanted to play a C in this tuning, normally in regular concert tuning you would have to fret it something like that. But now, because you've dropped the low string, the A string, down to a G, and the high E down to a D, you can play that C in an A form bar chord with one finger. And this is the secret to this tuning. And so many of the sounds that anybody who's a Stones fan knows very well is that you can now augment this chord any way you want. So everybody recognizes Waiting on a Friend, of course. Now, that change up there, the 1 to the 4, it's a C. It's not really an F, though. And it's not really an F with a C bass note in it, because what you have here is the notes are C, A, C, F, and then a G. It's a ninth. It's the same thing down here with a G to a C open. You got G, E, G, C, D. So there's that ringing that everybody knows so well. And of course you got the root notes ringing right through both chords. So there's no other way to get this particular sound. There's lots of ways to play similar riffs in concert tuning by just using the 3 strings in the middle here, this little box here of the A form chord, to fake it kind of. But if you want to get those real rhythm guitar sounds, you got to go into this 5-string tuning. Now, a classic example of this would be Tumbling Dice. You just can't recreate this song any other way than in this tuning. And furthermore, because of the song is in B, you want to get a capo in there in the 4th fret, so that when you strike the guitar open, just get this on right here, it's a B chord now. And you can see that without the tuning, you're scrambling around, faking it, getting half-assed approximations of what the song sounds like on the record. But once you get into this tuning, the song pretty much plays itself. because you've got all those spots there to make those changes, and you can always just take your hand off the guitar and still have an open chord to go back to. That's why you always see that little move. He jumps back to the chord. So, as an example of how this tuning is needed to play a song like Tumbling Dice, and how the song pretty much plays itself once you get the tuning right and the capo in the right spot, is here's the intro. Sort of. Or it could be a little bit. Once you put the capo in there, it tends to pull it out a bit, so you have to be mindful of that. So, so there it is. And I'll give you a little outro here, show you some of the classic, straightforward um, uh, craft, a blues rock guitar that you can get out of this tuning, which is just it's the, it's the bedrock of all of this music. This stuff really, it predates Chuck Berry and Jimmy Reed and all those guys who did so much with it. I think it comes from riding a train in a boxcar where the tracks are your drummer. You got to play along to it with the train wheels on the weld, but that's for another video maybe. But here's an example of what you can do with this tuning, and then I'll see y'all later. All right, open G tuning. Keep it alive.